Listen, welcome to the LME live stream, the little Monday get together that I do over here with my boy Zach. Just casually logging all the stuff that we have that we've seen this past week, and just putting it over on Letterboxd, and then just having a pretty cool Q&A with you guys. Any questions that you guys have about movies, and just having a pretty chill discussion. But Zach, say hi to everybody.
What's up, everybody? Glad to be back on the Monday live streams, Letterboxd some stuff, and catch up on the latest stuff that we've all seen.
I'm hoping that you're coming through because I see that there's a couple of glitches. The iPad says we're in January 9th. I wish, but we are not in January 9th. But we are here logging some movies. And if you haven't checked it out, over on Intercut, we had a whole thing dealing with, what did we cover? What were the film festivals?
New Fest, the LGBTQ plus festival in Brooklyn, and Chicago International Film Fest, which I know is a yearly festival you like to hit up out there in Chicago.
Yes, sir. And I will be making LMEs for all of those. It's just been... the bigger the channel gets, I feel the more scrutiny there is on copyright. But the one thing that they can't break is these little live streams over here. So the first ones that I want to start off with is actually a show. So it's not going to be on Letterboxd, at least not that I think of. But Zach, have you seen this show on HBO called How To with John Wilson?
I haven't. Tell me about it.
It's fantastic. Nathan Fielder, I believe, is an executive producer on this thing, and you pretty much follow this dude named John Wilson who is breaking down like a different thing every single episode. He's either like explaining scaffolding in New York or how to make small talk, and the most recent one was Memory. Zach, I have been watching this one weekly, and you know it is rare for me to watch a show. I am not a weekly kind of guy. But no, I thought this one was, it's been fantastic. There's still a couple of other episodes that are coming out. But the thing that he does is, obviously it's got the Nathan Fielder touch to it. He documents so many things throughout this throughout the series, and then uses those visuals for what he's saying. But it has nothing to do. It's just random people in New York, and I think he said he's got like 300 hours per episode or something like that. I think it's hilarious. I think, like I said, if you're a fan of Nathan For You, it's going to be right up your alley. But he's able to like just maneuver his way into an episode about scaffolding and the capitalistic sides of it. Isn't just about the scaffolding in New York, but it's also like he gets into the heart of it. I've been loving this show. It's over on HBO. Highly recommend it. I'm looking forward to another episode every single time something comes out. So again, I can't log it on Letterboxd, but if I could, honestly, it's up there. It's like 4.5 stars for me so far.
Yeah, I mean, if it's got that Nathan Fielder stamp of approval as well, then I'm definitely interested in it because Nathan For You is one of my favorite bits of TV from the past couple of years. So that's pretty exciting.
Yeah, no, it's been dope.
Yeah, and also wanted to shout out Edgar in the chat for donating $5, talking about The Boys on Amazon Prime being really good.
That one and Hill House are two ones that I've been wanting to finish, and ironically, those are two videos that one has been hit in the past, but they're both things that the networks have sent us. If you've seen over on Intercut, the network will send us things, but they won't send us the ad revenue on those videos. But I do want to make one on The Boys because I personally am a big fan of both seasons, and Bly Manor, which I know we get a lot of questions about as well. But moving over back on the Letterboxd to actually get some stuff over here.
Some stuff that we can log.
Some stuff that we can actually log. Possessor is what I want to start with because that's one of the ones that I have recommended up on the thumbnail.
Right. So Possessor is a movie that we first saw way back in January at the Sundance Film Festival. It's the latest film from Brandon Cronenberg, son of David Cronenberg. And those of you who know David Cronenberg's work in movies like Videodrome, he's got a very visually repulsive sometimes perspective, lots of body horror and like things that are just uncomfortable to watch. Brandon's definitely taken a lot of that influence in his work. I know there's that short film, something like Speak Loudly and Clearly, that we saw back at TIFF.
Yeah,
also
TIFF.
That does some cool stuff. But Possessor is like a whole bigger project. It was getting buzz as being the scariest thing at Sundance this year. But I know they've put out a new version, which apparently is like the uncut version.
Yes, sir.
How is that different? What was your experience with that one?
I have not been able to catch that yet. I just want to put it on people's radar because I was a big fan of the original version. And when we had the Q&A with him at the Egyptian, I remember he was talking about certain things that were cut, but he wasn't sure if he wanted to put them back in. And now I guess they're back in. But this is definitely one that I want to have on people's radar because I think it's one of the best horrors of the year. And like I keep thinking about this one more and more. This may be one that I want to make a full video on just because of like the way he tackles the future. Like I don't know if you remember how much vaping they did in the movie, and because it's like they're not smoking cigarettes. On purpose, everyone is vaping, and like that was a really big question that somebody had at the Q&A, and he was just like, "I just thought it was cool," but I think there may be a little bit more to that.
Yeah, I mean it's a very visually striking movie, even in the parts where I was sort of lost by its plot and who exactly is supposed to be doing what. He manages to get these haunting images. I just still remember. Somebody like tearing a face open from that movie. So yeah, if you're into those practical effects, those crazy happenings, definitely a movie worth watching.
Definitely. Another one, I don't know if you were ever able to get a link for this one or not, but there's this movie called Let Him Go, which I know came out recently.
Yeah, I haven't seen that one. Is that Kevin Costner?
Yeah, it was weird because for those of you who know GoFobo, I've shouted them out in the past, and the way to usually get regular screenings to be able to go to a theater, they're now offering virtual ones, Zach. So yeah, it was dope to actually get a virtual screening that hasn't been like part of the fall festivals or whatever else. This is an actual movie that got released and what would have been meeting up at an AMC for. Got to watch at home. And I thought it was okay. It's Diane Lane and Kevin Costner, so I know a lot of people have been joking that it's Superman's parents coming back. But their boy in this one, he is not a boy of steel. He's not a man of steel. And in fact, it ends up being kind of like a country, just not necessarily a revenge thriller, but that is very much the case of what's going on when they try to get their grandchild back. Because even though they've lost their son, they're still trying to save their grandchild from... a group of people who may not be the nicest, I guess is the best way to put it. And I thought it was a decent little thriller that would have come out during this time if theaters were open alongside a bigger blockbuster. But I'm interested to see how they're going to be doing these rollouts because not a lot of people are going to the theaters. So these are definitely movies that I believe they should have pivoted a little bit more into being straight to VOD releases, which I don't think this one has. But again, it's interesting that they do have a virtual screener for people in the press, but they don't have a virtual screener for regular people to watch. But
yeah, I mean, I'm curious how some of those movie screening companies are gonna pivot when that's their entire industry, But I guess if the movie watching is being done at home, you gotta help people watch them at home.
Exactly. Another one that I was able to catch is this movie called Spell. This one's over on Prime. Just to log this bad boy in, because there's actually two spells, and I have not seen this spell over here, which I believe is a horror, and it starts with Mario Hardwick, but I saw this spell over here by Brendan Walter. It's, I don't know if you ever saw The Ritual, which was over on Netflix. So it's kind of similar to that movie where it's dealing about grief, where this guy is, he lost his partner, and he just decides to go to Iceland and go all crazy about it. Very interesting movie. I know this guy as being a funny guy. And in all of the behind the scenes, he has been a funny guy. I'm trying to find his name over here because he also wrote the movie Barrack Hardley. I don't know if you've seen him. And he's been in Bronze, Mortuary Collection, which is coming out soon. I've seen him in a lot of comedy stuff. Here, it's very much a drama where he kind of gets involved in what may or may not seem like a cult over in the Icelandic side. But he's going through grief, so he just doesn't care. He's just going through it all. Interestingly enough, the score to this movie was done by Patrick Stump of Fall Out Boy. So he did the OST, and I know he also he had done some original music. He did the complete score to it, and there was like a behind the scenes to it where this dude just goes up to him and he goes like, "Hey, Patrick, you're editing my sex scene, aren't you?" And it's just in the backdrop. So I guess this would be an interesting movie. I would compare it a lot also because it deals a lot with mental health. The Buster's Malheart, can't remember.
Right, the Rami Malek one.
Yes, sir. It reminded me a little bit of that in the way that it's approached. Buster's Malheart, I believe is what it's called. So try to search it up over here. I know some people are really big on this one. And I believe you and I are at the same way where it's like it may not be for us, but I could definitely see it being somebody's, masterpiece, somebody's must watch. I feel like that's going to be the exact same case with Spell, which is over on Amazon Prime. So if you're interested in a little Icelandic cultish story of grief, there's that. And you got a little Fall Out Boy as a backdrop to it as well.
Cool.
His House from Sundance finally got released on Netflix. I believe they were going to try to put this bad boy in theaters. It ended up going to Netflix. Were you able to catch this one?
Not yet, but I'm excited to, because it's been getting a lot of really good buzz. A lot of people on film Twitter who've been catching up with it seem to like it quite a bit.
Mm-hmm.
It's an interesting premise, sort of making it about the horrors of this refugee couple who moved from the South Sudan to England. What did you think of it? Let me know.
I was really excited for this one because this was one of the ones that we wanted to catch at Sundance, and I've been really surprised with some of the Sundance horrors that we skipped out on. Like, I really liked Impetigore. Again, we just covered Possessor as well, which also came out of Sundance. This one was I really liked the visual language that he had going on here, because like he's playing director Remy Weeks, and I believe this is his first feature as well. Let me check that over here. Yeah, I believe he's only done what may have been a short. Yeah, a little short called Tickle Monster. But I really like how he played with the horrors of being a refugee, because this is a couple who comes over to the UK, and Doctor Who is like the one who's making sure that they are the good citizens. They're going to be one of the good ones, and as long as they're doing everything according to plan, then everything's going to be okay. But then they get haunted in this house, right? And I really like how it plays. Not just as a horror, but again, a lot of our horror movies, people are realizing that they're not just meant for the thrills of it, but you can actually say something. And the idea of the horrors of what you left behind don't stay behind; they follow you. And I thought it was very well done. There is I don't want to call it in the third act, they hit you with something, and I think it makes it gives the movie definitely that rewatchability factor. But yeah, I would put it up there. I really do like a lot of the practical effects that they had going on as well. I thought the performances were pretty well. I've liked both of them in previous things. Sope, who plays the main guy, let me try to find a frame of him. He's been in a couple of stuff. I'm not sure if it'll show up here because I'm thinking of the show that he was in. These have been the movies, but he was actually in the new show by the dude who did The Raid.
The London Spy show.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, and that bad boy's up on Amazon Prime right now, and I think they only got the first episode though. He kills it in the first episode, so I am excited to see everything else that this man is in. He was also in an episode of Black Mirror, the pilot with Nosedive.
Right.
With I'm blanking on her name, but would have been
Bryce Dallas Howard.
Would have been the one who they have a screaming match in a jail cell with. That was him. So he's been in a lot of great stuff. And then Wunmi has also been in a couple of movies, but she has been killing it in HBO's Lovecraft. So, they're both over here in a big feature film that's over on Netflix. It was supposed to get, I believe, a theatrical release, but hopefully it picks up a lot more over on Netflix.
Yeah. And that show that we were talking about is Gangs of London.
Gangs of London.
That title.
Okay, for sure. Really, really big fan of that one. That's one where I'm going to buy the Blu-ray set for sure. One of the other ones to log in over here as I check my list is, I don't know if you were able to catch both of these. I did, sadly, The Witches. Because I know...
you caught the... 97 version as well as the new Zemeckis one? I take it?
We caught both, and it was alright. They were. I think the original just has that factor of the practicality of it, and I believe it was Oz who had worked on it as well. As I wait for it to load over here, but I know there's always going to be an argument on what's better, what's worse, but it's just crazy to me to think that the thing I got the most out of it. And we'll talk about the story in a bit. Roald Dahl is going to be like the new Stephen King. And I know he already is, just like they Dr. Seuss everything, but it's property, bro. And one of the new things that they have for The Witches 2020 is the fact that they actually have a logo for him now. So
Oh, really?
the Roald Dahl production, it's like their Marvel logo for his stories.
Right.
So expect a lot more remakes to come. But I didn't think it was terrible. Wasn't great, but the one thing I will say, as goofy as a lot of the stills look, the effects look a lot better on camera. Like when you're actually seeing her mouth open up, like I actually thought it was pretty creepy and it was a pretty good effect. Does it beat the practicality of it? I don't think so, though. So
Yeah.
to me,
There's also the thing that Zemeckis is a director who gets really into his CGI. You know, he's the guy behind The Walk, the Joseph Gordon-Levitt tightrope walk between the Twin Towers movie. He's done Christmas Carol in the past, where the movie's completely done with these CGI creatures. Did you think he was maybe going too far with his use of CGI here, or do you actually like it?
oh, he does a couple of swaps. For example, the grandma, because it's a story about a boy and his grandma, and he starts seeing witches, but the grandma already knows. So he's always had this theory that there's been witches out there, right? And I wish they would have added more factors to that. Modernize it more, a little bit more. It's still in the same setting. So all he does is he takes those iconic scenes that we already know, from the first, and is just trying to amp them up with the CGI. And like I said, it's 50-50 for me. I like what they had had going on in her mouth. I don't know if you heard of the actual criticism that it had, but it actually started getting I forget what foundation. But
Yeah, I know that
you heard about this?
HBO, yeah, issued an apology to some disabilities group. I didn't read that article, but is
Yeah.
that what it's related to?
Pretty much the way that they did their fingers, because they decided to go the route of, instead of the witches, just all being bald and such, they also created this aspect of it, as I'm trying to find a picture over here, where they only had like 2 fingers, and that's an actual condition that a lot of people had. So they pretty much came out and said, this is really bogus. It gets the effect down, I suppose. You kind of see it right there in the gloves, because they only had 3 fingers. But, I mean, they let you see it. I guess that's the other part about answering your question on the CGI. He definitely focuses in on, like, look at how much money we have spent here. But I think what people liked about the original, and what I've always liked about Roald Dahl's movies, is that practicality of it. So it's going to be interesting to see a lot of his stories come in and get the CGI treatment. So.
Some crazy talent was attached to this, though.
Yes.
Guillermo del Toro and Kenya Barris of Blackish got script credit on this one, so
yeah,
a little surprising that it didn't turn out a little better.
Yeah, that was a lot of... When Guillermo came out, we went, Guillermo? We had no idea about that. Another good one to add over here is Over the Moon. I don't know if you were able to catch this one. This is probably going to be one of the finalists to probably enter the Oscar race.
Yeah, that's the hype on it so far, is that it will be probably among the movies that are chosen for Best Animated Feature at this year's Oscars. It seems like it's Netflix's biggest play in that category, and Netflix, of course, has been doing better and better in that category. Even, I believe Klaus won it last year.
Klaus, I thought, was a little bit of a better movie to this. But that's more so because I lean more on the animation that Klaus had. But I didn't think this was a... What's up?
Klaus lost, actually.
It was able to score the nomination, though, right?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. So this one follows this girl who loses her mom. They kind of have like the searching moment at the beginning, and it's just her dad, and she's kind of split between the idea of, should her father move on and find somebody else, or should, things be in her favor of her missing her mom and not wanting things to change. And a lot of it is based on this lore of, I'm blinking on what the character was, but she kind of enters this world, right? She gets spirited away and ends up coming across this deity, this tale that everybody always talks about, and her mother always used to talk about as well. And, it's about her learning how to move on and realizing what family really is. And I thought it was cute. I really liked the animation to it as well. The music is all over the place a little bit. Like, they go for every genre possible, and it's got Philippa So, who she was in Hamilton, so you could like recognize her voice instantly. She's mad talented. I like the colors in it. I like how sometimes they switch the animation, and I thought it was a cute movie. I don't think it's going to be the front runner to win, but it did its job. It did what it was supposed to do. The one that I am a little bit more excited for, and I'm not sure if you were able to catch the link that was sent to us. Did you catch Wolfwalkers?
I did catch Wolfwalkers. Yes.
Take it away, Zach. I know this is an early one that we're logging in here, but this is one that y'all need to have on your radar.
Yeah, so this one will be available, I believe, in theaters this Friday.
Mhm.
So one to put on your radar, one to put on your schedule. Start looking into it. If you're not a person who is near places where theaters are open, it's going to be available in the beginning of December on Apple TV Plus. So
Yes, sir.
it's also not that far into the future. This is a really beautifully drawn film about a young apprentice hunter and her father in Ireland who are there to wipe out the last wolf pack. But everything changes when she befriends a mysterious girl who's part of the wolf pack, which is just sort of the beginning of the story from the same people who made The Secret of the Kells and Song of the Sea, if you're familiar with those animated movies. To me, the most striking thing about Wolfwalkers is just the gorgeous, gorgeous design behind this movie, from the characters to the way it all moves. I was really enraptured by this one. What did you think?
Absolutely love the animation. I was listening a bunch of interviews on kind of how they split the scenes within the castle to the scenes out in the woods. Um, Absolutely stunning, absolutely beautiful. Personally, because I saw The Secret of Kells and Song of the Sea once, and I know people really love those movies. I know a lot of them were able to get Oscar noms, and I know they're really pushing for this one to be the one that's like, we're finally going to beat Pixar. We're finally going to beat the bigger studio, and I really like that spunk of it because one of the ways that they approach the making of the movie. They even mentioned that with working with Apple, they didn't give them a lot of changes. So they were really looking at this, as I try to find the quote over here that I wrote from them, that to them, everybody on the cat or on the crew, they weren't technicians. They wanted everyone to be an artist, you know? And I feel like in a lot of the animations that we're seeing, we know that there's like a bigger picture already set and it's just coming in to do the shading, right? And they were really big on the idea that every single artist was going to add something new to it. So there was like different layers to it. And you kind of see that there's like a fuzziness over a lot of the characters who are out in the woods as opposed to the characters who are back in the city. And I really liked a lot of the themes that he approached in this one. That was a very well done movie and probably my pick so far. I haven't caught Soul, but my pick so far on the one to win.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know if you can even really argue much with that, given the slate of movies we've seen so far this year, at least animated movies. It's definitely better than Pixar's Onward. And I haven't seen Over the Moon, but you were just talking about it. So, yeah, it'll be exciting to see whether Soul can eclipse this one. But the Irish studio, Cartoon Saloon, it's just
They've been
putting out
killing
some
it.
bangers recently.
Yeah, and I really like their approach because they're sticking with the 2D side of things and they really don't want that to go away. And, yo, I will always, always, always respect that for sure.
Yeah.
Let's see. A couple of other ones to log over here. Before I get to the... Nah, never mind. Let me do the really hard ones first. Higher Love. You were just asking me about this because you were able to get the link for us on this bad boy over here, which is a documentary by Hassan Oswald. And let me tell you about this dude right here. Hassan, who doesn't even have a picture over here. So let me try to pull one over on IMDb. First time filmmaker, bro. Like he said in 2016, he barely got into movies. He was an English teacher who decided, why don't I just do this myself? And he went on YouTube and just learned everything over on YouTube. And decided to go kind of film a movie that was originally going to be about how the industrial belt and everything is dying over. I'm not sure where you shoot in New Jersey, and he ends up coming. He ends up coming across all of these blue collar people who are addicted, you know, to the big opioid crisis that we got going on in the country right now. And he decided to kind of follow them, but in the midst of following them, he finds this dude right here who goes, "Yo, are you talking to my girlfriend?" And he's like, "Yeah. Do you know where she is?" And he's like, "I can't tell you where she is because that's like private." And he goes, "All right, well, as much as I don't like you shooting a documentary about her, you do know where she is at all times. So as long as you're keeping her safe, let me tell you my side of the story." And it becomes this whole tale about this family, really, who she ends up being pregnant with this kid. And he also has an addiction that's a little bit different to her addiction, but nonetheless is still an addiction to want to be wanted and to have a family. there were criticisms when this premiered over at Slam Dance, mainly because of the way that he goes about approaching this doc, and that's that he is capturing them do these drugs, you know? But that's the effect of it. He is capturing moments where perhaps a pregnant woman is doing things that they shouldn't, and he chooses to not intervene. I don't know your opinion on that, Zach, but I think it's a very interesting approach.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it's definitely like this unfiltered approach that some documentarians take, and I do think it leaves viewers with the question of like, why are you just standing there? I feel like the larger societal version of this is when you see cell phone footage of something awful, and people are just like, well, why did you just stand there?
Yeah.
But you know, at a certain point, I don't know if intervening does much or anything, and maybe being able to talk about it, if that's your chosen medium, can do more.
Exactly. And from that aspect, you know, I'm always a little iffy, a little critical on that, but I thought it was extremely effective. The way that he just covers the story and the way that he's able to tie it back in. I personally really, I think it hits the chord that he wanted to, and I'm curious to see what he does next, because again, this is a dude who, he said, learned everything off YouTube. This man said he was on set, dude, and he barely learned what peaking was. He said that when the mic was hitting red, he's like, oh, that's what that means. So, yeah, this is a guy who's brand new to it completely, and was able to premiere over at Slam Dance earlier this year. And I know now it's out on VOD to rent. Once it's on streaming, for sure, I hope a lot more people capture the catch it, because I think it does. While again, borderline being, you know, the ethics or whatnot, he made his decision to capture it, to show it to you, and that's what a documentary is, really. So,
in terms of its approach to sort of discussing the opioid crisis, is it something that you feel like you learn stuff from in terms of like a statistical way? Did you get a perspective that you don't normally see? What knowledge did it bring you about this issue?
So again, remember, the way that he approached it was he thought he was going to go kind of see how all the working class and everyone is dying because of industrialization or whatever else. And then he sees, oh, it's way worse than that. We're not on the part of losing jobs. We're on the part of just hanging on to anything we possibly can, you know? And again, the way that he approached the story was he was just going to cover the people who allowed him to record them using these drugs. And then it ends up actually being the story of the boyfriend, and how he's also looking for his girlfriend, and how they have a child as well, and how addictions come in different forms. So he plays it more so not so much on the statistic side, but he definitely has a storyline. He definitely wants you to feel the emotions of it, and I think that's why ultimately he chose to capture crazy scenes where he doesn't intervene and he just lets it happen. So imagine that those season 2 episodes of Breaking Bad where the camera's just seeing them choke. That, you know,
right.
but it's real people. It's not actors.
Right.
I'm curious to see what more people say about this one. Another quick one to catch. Peacock. You got Peacock, Zach?
Yeah. I mean, there's a free tier of Peacock, so I think just about everybody has it if they want it. But I don't know if what you're about to talk about is on that free tier or not.
It's a little movie called Freesia Got a Gun.
Huh.
And it's also another documentary. I don't know why it's not popping up here. But it pretty much talks about the gun violence in New Orleans and how the cameras that they're instituting over there earlier this year, it's still not coming up, not sure why, but earlier this year or last year, there was another movie that took place in New Orleans dealing with the cops as well, and all of the cameras and whether they work or not, or who are they really helping, or who are they benefiting, right. And just that idea of violence and how Katrina comes into the picture, and how many people were like dislocated from where they were supposed to be. And if you have a place that's full of turfs, you know, and Katrina happens, and now everyone's got to integrate into other people's turfs, like just how the violence perpetuates violence practically. And I thought it does a really big deep dive into a documentary about that, and how systemic really it becomes, because no one's doing anything to help the kids from entering that environment as well. Instead, they just feel like they too need to have a gun, because at the end of it, you can say that there's all these different things to fix, but if they're gone, they're gone. And no one wants to be on a t-shirt.
Right. And this one stars or is centered on the New Orleans bounce performer, Big Frida. What does she lend to the proceedings?
Um, I had no idea about her, but she's like huge down in New Orleans, and
Mm-hmm.
it was an interesting perspective because obviously for her, you get a little bit of her backstory as well, and how she was always supposed to be like the brother who was going to be there, and how she kind of relays that over about being able to be yourself without getting belittled. But that idea that when it comes to like these territories, and yeah, it was Freedia. Someone Pink Sweets let us know over here. Apologies on the mix-up right there, but how Freedia was able to go to people and tell them like, "Yo, you will always be accepted in your own community." And it was like she would get made fun of from everybody else except her own community because it was her community who embraced her, right? But they would make fun of somebody else. So it's like there's still all that homophobia and transphobia that happens outside of your circle. But as long as you're in your circle, like they'll look past those ways, which is a very interesting way to break down America. You know, the cliquish type of complexity that happens when you get to a lot of these areas. But I thought it was a pretty good breakdown, and I just find it interesting that Peacock, they're picking up. You know, I assumed Peacock was just going to pick up more Minion stuff, but they got a lot of other things that they're picking up as well.
Yeah, trying to diversify that catalog of
Mm-hmm.
offerings on their service. Pretty
Yeah.
cool.
But yeah.
Shouts also to Dylan Brown for the dollar donation. He says he's broke AF, so he can only donate $1, but we really appreciate that.
Hey, we appreciate that always. Shout out to you. Shout out to everyone who's watching in the chat as well. Let's wrap up a couple more, and then we'll take some questions.
Yeah.
Holiday.
Right. Which, according to Netflix, was a pretty big hit for them.
It is the best movie that I saw that day because I only had seen this movie. Here's the it's a cute movie about how what happens if you, instead of having a date everywhere you went, you know, that ends up just falling apart, you just make a truce with someone and you kind of have that friends with benefits type thing going on. Previous movies would have been like what's that one where they're Table 18 where everyone's single?
Yeah, Plus One, where
Plus
they go
One.
to those weddings together.
Yeah, so it's very much in the vein of that, and it does have some funny jokes. Biggest problem is that if 3 of your jokes hit, but the other 7 don't, a little bit of a problem, you know?
Yeah.
They're firing a lot at once, and many don't hit, but there are a couple that actually do. And it's just a background movie to have. I think it does what it needs to do as we await.
I kind of feel like as long as a comedy doesn't annoy you and you laugh more than a few times,
Yeah.
like it's pretty successful.
You know, so yeah, it's got a couple things in there that I think were worth it just to pass the time. I was working on a puzzle during that Amazon puzzle, and I think it helped with it. So, Holiday over on Netflix, I guess, is doing really good. So there's that one to check. Another one would also be The Craft Legacy, one that I actually want to work on a longer video for. This obviously being the sequel to The Craft. And I'll try to open up this one as well as the previous one.
Yeah, so this is directed by Zoe Lister-Jones.
We love her, big fans.
Yeah, big fans of her previous work on Band-Aid. That was her feature debut, so this is her second. I think my girl Lee Janiak from Honeymoon was supposed to adapt this for a little while, but eventually the baton got passed to Zoe.
Mm-hmm. And she does what she has to, I guess. I want to start with the first. Did you ever catch the first?
No, it's not a movie that I've seen.
Okay, so I know that this is like a cult classic, and people really like it. I was able to catch it 2 times. Like I said, I'm working on a video of it. I understand why people like it, and I think it definitely achieves what it was going for. I think my biggest issues with the sequel is that everything that happens in the first Craft, and not that it doesn't have its own problems as well, but kind of came at it from... it was like the first of its kind, you know, and then a lot of other things started mimicking it. So when you get to the Craft Legacy, which has the name Legacy, which is now a really big, I think it's Sony, I'm not exactly sure who owns the property. It may not be a Marvel movie, but nonetheless, it's still a franchise, you know? And I love Zoe Lister-Jones, and it's one of the things that I want to get into more in the spoilers, but it definitely feels like there's a good movie in there, you know? But
maybe not.
Yeah, I feel like a lot of it is cut out. There, a lot more could have been fleshed with these characters. A lot of it very much relies on, like, it's the same storyline. I'm like if you look at them, you know, you have the one black character. At least in the first one, they did a lot more, and she wasn't originally supposed to be a black actress either. And there's a lot of behind the scenes to go into what they did there as well. But they cut out a lot of lovey scenes as well. they cut out a lot of the stuff from Luna, who you see over here in the background, whose grandma was supposed to bring in the brujeria aspect of it. And Lily, who was also in Devs, the actress was in Devs. She did a fantastic job in Devs. She is very much Zoe Lister-Jones, who's talked about how the way that she was raised was also in a very similar scenario, kind of like the first, where you have this girl who comes in and joins these other three girls who want to, have the four parts to be able to have their powers. Again, I didn't hate it. It's definitely setting up for there to be a third. I really hope that they give people like Zoe Lister-Jones, who, again, highly recommend Band-Aid. The characters in Band-Aid would have made fun of aspects in this movie. But I don't want to blame it on Zoe. I feel a lot of it just comes from the studio, where they have a project that they're really trying to protect. But when you compare it to another one, Black Christmas, which came out last year, I think this covers a lot of those themes a little bit better. But
interesting. Yeah, Wit says it's the craft but glitzy. Wit in the chat.
yeah, that would be that. Let's see. I think I got one more, and then we're set. Wrap it up over here with a documentary, and then
we'll
answer
a couple questions, so we'll do that after this last one.
Dope. You like beer, Zach?
Yeah, I love a beer.
There's a little documentary called Brewmaster, a little independent documentary,
Ooh.
all about beer that I was able to catch this past weekend because it was playing on Prime. You literally follow different people who are either snobs dealing with beer or they're entrepreneurs dealing with beer, people who are doing law degrees that are elongating their classes because they also want to take brewing master classes. It's just a cool little documentary talking about, like, as it says it over here, the American dream of brewing. And I'm one who's really big into beer and craft beer. So I thought it was like an interesting breakdown of it. I wanted to log this one because there's also another documentary that played over, I want to say it was Indie Memphis, that talked about the first black beer festival. Which, again, I've drank a lot of beer, and what I really liked about that doc, and I wish I could pull it up, but I will be mentioning it in the in our Virtual Fest recap as well, how beer is so big and people are drinking a lot of it. So the question you do have to answer is, who are you choosing to give that money to? There is an economy dealing with beer as well. Besides the craft, we focus so much on the craft, but now it's who are you choosing? If that's the drink that you are drinking on a weekly basis, who are the top dogs in that, right? And it also talks about the corporatism that's going on with it as well, obviously with like Budweiser and Coors, and they're all just buying out other breweries to the point where in order to have all that equipment to run a brewery, you kind of have to give in. But I thought it was a very interesting perspective. If you like beer, I'm always a fan of, documenting something and a craft in and of itself and exploring all the different sides of it. So I really enjoyed Brewmaster. And like I said, I can't think of it off the top, but there's another great short also dealing with a beer festival that happens in Philly that watching it during Corona, you're like, oh man, they're all drinking out of the same cups and stuff. But I cannot wait for all this to be over because I definitely want to go to that fest and even try a lot of the brews that were mentioned in this little doc over here. But yeah, those are our movies logged in this week. We'll have more over there. Like I mentioned over on Intercut, we have a full podcast talking about a lot of the festival picks that we've been seeing. There will be LME breakdowns on those coming as well, hopefully. But let's answer some questions over on the chat, Zach.
All right, so we got a question from Chris Smith asking, do we think streaming is dead? He says physical media is better. And it's an interesting question to get the same week that we got this interesting Amazon court ruling or defense, rather.
Did we?
I don't know if you've read about that case in which Amazon is arguing that if you buy a movie through Amazon Prime Video, that does not entitle you to own that movie. And if that movie leaves Amazon Prime, that doesn't mean you still own that movie. So a lot of people, I think, are having some anxiety about the world of streaming video and maybe reinvesting in some of their physical media right now.
Yeah, that's something that you and I have always had about digital media and how you don't really own it. You're getting it leased to you. But to actually hear Amazon come out in that report that they said where what happened with Fox? You thought you owned those movies from Fox, but then Disney bought them.
Right.
You think you own something at a certain place, but then if there's been cases in Canada where people don't have the rights to it anymore because things changed, and it's like, wait, what? But you purchased it. We're really big on physical copies. We'll always be. And even just being able to own the digital copy on a hard drive bit, that's not possible over here. We have felt it's been a big deal, and this just showcases it more and more. So
Yeah. Although, like, just to get back to the framing of the question, to me, that doesn't mean, streaming is dead. And if anything, streaming
no,
is more powerful than ever. And
it's the opposite. Yeah.
yeah, for us, like, the reason to invest in physical media now is because the opportunity to invest in physical media is going to get smaller and smaller and less likely and less likely. Think about all the amazing movies that Netflix has produced and how few of them are even available in physical media. So
Yes, sir. And then what was the
it's gonna
Disney
be an
thing
ongoing battle.
about them not wanting to make 4Ks anymore?
Right.
So yeah, there's a lot of different things. What else we got from the chat?
Alexis Wolford wants to know the best movie that you watched in the month of October. And keep in mind, October, that's when we did, I think, all of our New Fest watching, all of your Chicago Fest watching, most of our Philadelphia Film Festival watching. You caught a couple of movies that were playing New York as well. So I don't know if you've got a winner for the best thing you've seen in October.
I'll go with a twofer. Do you have yours?
Ooh, I mean, I see on your screen you had Borat for a little bit, but
yeah,
that's among mine. I don't know what. I'm gonna go back into my Letterboxd
for sure.
Figure this out.
All right. So right off the bat, I'm gonna give you the one that I saw in streaming, and then the one that actually we got to catch like through the fest and stuff. So through the fest, which also kind of cheating, is actually already on Hulu. City So Real was one of my favorite documentaries that came from Steve. Look at that. You ever open up a Letterboxd thing and you see, damn, I gave that 5 stars. I loved it. Steve James, who did Hoop Dreams, like he's made some of the best documentaries of all time. He went on record saying that if Hoop Dreams was done today, it would have been a docuseries. And so he made a docuseries on Chicago called City So Real. It is already up on Hulu. I'm not sure why Letterboxd isn't logging it over here, but dude, all 5 episodes already up on Hulu. It breaks down Chicago, and it seems a little boring. Most people would say, "Oh, you're just gonna follow the mayor," but through that, he's able to jump through a bunch of places in Chicago and follow not just the mayors, but the people who are voting for them, and it makes up a whole picture of Chicago. And it's just the way that he cuts. One of the lines that he had said is, "You speak through the montage, right? Showing an image and then cutting to something else shows you that juxtaposition of a city and what they're going through at the same time. When the city is going through the trial of the cop who shot Laquan McDonald, there is like a cut that goes to, on the north side, a kid just trick-or-treating. People are marching out in the cold outside because they want the verdict to go a certain way. And then people are marching in the cold up on the north side because they want to get some Reese's Pieces. He does a lot of that throughout the 4 episodes that then got added with a 5th additional one because he was able to follow up during this year everything that happened through COVID, everything that happened through the protests. And I thought it was a masterpiece. I can't wait to revisit it, but this one is out there for you to catch. So I think it kind of covers both, but I would say this was hands down one of my favorites.
Yeah, City So Real is excellent, and we'll talk a little bit more about that on our next Intercut podcast. But yeah, absolutely worth your time, and you can watch it right now on Hulu. As far as the best thing that I saw in October, if we're including some series, I really did love Queen's Gambit. I thought that was just excellent. I burned my way through it. I think it's so meticulously crafted. I also rewatched Minari and Moneyball. Minari, maybe my favorite movie of this year. Moneyball, maybe one of my favorite movies of the last decade. So shouts to both of them. But the best new to me in October, it's pretty close between either One Night in Miami or Lovers Rock, the Steve McQueen Small Axe movie.
I completely forgot we caught that stuff.
Yeah, One Night in Miami. This is a really good movie, man.
Dude, I've been doing a lot of interviews for listening to a bunch of stuff from One Night in Miami, and I had no idea that Ken Powers, who did the play, dude's directing Soul, co-directing Soul.
Really?
Tell me that doesn't make you so excited for Soul. Again, that was the reason why I said I love Wolfwalkers, but Camp Powers is doing so. He, I believe he wrote it, also co-directed it, and I mean, it's no joke who he co-directed it with. You know, you ever just go on Pete Docter's IMDb and remember what he worked on? It's insane. So to see both of them combined, I'm really excited for it because again, anytime Pixar does like a co-directing, like they did with Coco, I'm very excited for it. But yeah, no, One Night in Miami, fantastic movie. Easily one of my most anticipated to rewatch again.
Absolutely. I wanted to shout out to Shar, who mentioned that he just got done watching The Killing of Two Lovers and Night of the Kings, two of the movies that we've been highly recommending out of the various film festivals. Night of the Kings, I believe, is maybe Senegal's official entry into the Best Foreign Language Film at the Oscars. Really great movie. You caught Killing of Two Lovers, which we thought was great. So I'm glad some people are listening to our recommendations.
Yeah, Killing of Two Lovers. I was just listening to the interviews today. There's a whole breakdown on how they did the sound, so I would recommend anyone who was able to catch this at one of the screenings to go check it out on YouTube. I absolutely adored the sound, and when they broke it down and where they actually get the sounds from and incorporate them back into the movie, because I believe he would be credited as a composer, but it's really the sound engineer who did the score, because the score is the sound engineering, and it's fantastic. It's incredible. I also learned today that in The Killing of Two Lovers, the kids are the director's kids. They're his children.
Oh, wow.
You know, I don't even, this to me, you know, a lot of people will say, oh, nepotism. Nah, bro. What I see here is kids who were trained from the jump, and they do a fantastic job with it. I believe his father also played the father in the movie. I absolutely love The Killing of Two Lovers. I compared it a lot to Marriage Story, but up in Utah. You don't have the space in LA or the walking in New York. It's, I think anybody who felt that Marriage Story, and we both love Marriage Story, but if you thought that was a little bit too scripted, I would say watch this. The whole thing feels like improv, but it's not. This one really blew me away. I want more people to catch this one. I really liked it.
Yes. Devesh asked, what are your thoughts on The Father? Are they going to give Olivia Colman more awards so they have an excuse for her to bumble around? I know we talked a little bit about this on Intercut, but I think you're saying that this is going to be a huge awards contender this year.
It should be a huge awards contender for Anthony. That's just a fact. It should be a big awards contender for the production design, which is absolutely incredible with his little loft. But how is she so good, Zach?
I mean, she's always been great. You know,
she's always been great.
She shows up in little roles and kills them. She shows up as just a voice in the Tom Hardy driving a BMW movie and makes you cry. Olivia Colman is the real deal, man.
She really is. I'll never forget. I remember making a meme about her stealing. It was like a football meme, and she like stole the performance and ended up stealing the Oscar as well. I don't even want to say stealing, earned that Oscar. But she may have another one over here. Nominations all around for sure. And again, this one being the play that was adapted into a movie by, let me find his name over here, Florian Zeller, who I think did a really good job at adapting it. And we've talked a lot about, One Night in Miami was also adapted from a play, and both of these movies, just fantastic. Like, honestly, the adaptation was done very well because you don't even second guess that it comes from a stage play. But all around, Definitely looking forward to that. I'll follow up a question that you have right now, but I heard Pink Sweets had said, have y'all seen the documentary on YouTube called My Brother Jordan? Now that you've said that, I might catch it tonight because this keeps popping up in my recommended.
Yeah.
Right? Okay, so it's not just us, right? I feel like everybody's been getting this documentary, and I was like, yo, this is dope, and I've had it kind of saved for a little bit. But to see that it's also showing up on everybody else's, I'm kind of curious to check it out. I'm going to add it to a little watch list right here, but I'm definitely going to catch it by next week for sure. It's only 63 minutes, and yeah, I saw that the entire thing was on YouTube, so shout out to that doc right there.
Dragon Animations had an interesting question, but do we think the Fantastic Mr. Fox deserved the animation Oscar in 2009? Of course, Fantastic Mr. Fox, the impeccably designed Wes Anderson stop-motion movie from 2008, lost the Best Animated Feature Oscar that year to Up directed by Pete Docter. So some stiff competition there. I don't know which way you lean.
What else was nominated that year?
Coraline, Princess and the Frog, and The Secret of the Kells.
Really? All right, yeah, I'm trying to search this up over here. Yeah, I know Secret of the Kells, they're really big on them winning that next one over here. I don't know. Do you cite anyway on it?
Look, no one wants to argue about those first 15 minutes of Up, right? Like we all agree that's just classic, perfect, beautiful filmmaking.
Mm-hmm.
I think I prefer the whole film of Fantastic Mr. Fox to Up.
I get what you're saying, because I've always felt the same way about Up, but I keep that I keep that opinion down because I know a lot of people love Up, and it shows you how good the intro is. That everybody always talks about the intro, and then there's another hour and change to the movie. I don't think it's a terrible Pixar movie, but that was a stacked year with Coraline, Fantastic Mr. Fox. I know people who love Princess and the Frog, and we've been talking about the work that they're doing over there with Secret of Kells, and that whole animation studio over there. I think the uphill battle here is, you're looking at all the ones that I have here. It's all Pixar. Like, again, one of the big things that 2D animation has been fighting with, like, it's very rare for Wallace to have been nominated, but they were still only doing 3 back then. A lot of it gets swept up with Zootopia, Inside Out, Coco. I love these movies, but they are big blockbuster movies, and we know the Oscar campaigns that happen, so this may be the year.
We also know from the fact that they snubbed the Lego movie that a lot of times the decision makers in this category are far more interested in the technology of the animation and the new ground that Pixar breaks in their CGI, whether that's like the water textures that they did in Moana or the hair textures that they did for The Incredibles. That kind of stuff really impresses people who work in animation. So it seems like they get the upper hand to some of these more gorgeously crafted but 2D or hand-drawn or whatever have you animated movies.
I feel you. All right, let's answer 3 more.
Tashar also mentioned Donald Glover hopping onto Twitter the past couple days to say that seasons 3 and 4 of Atlanta are going to be the best TV we ever watch, on par with only The Sopranos. I don't know if you had a thought on that.
I did not see that tweet. I saw him starting tweeting like crazy about him coming back with an album, but yeah, I'm excited. Atlanta's that show where it feels like you sat down with an hour's worth of content and then you realize it was it wasn't an hour, it was like 30 minutes, and you're like, wow.
Yeah.
And that's a compliment. Yeah, I don't doubt it. There's no reason to doubt it. I've seen the previous episodes of Atlanta. I'm excited. I'm glad that they're finally back on it, though, because it's been a hiatus.
Yeah, they took a little while to get back to it, but glad that they're doing seasons 3 and 4 back to back, so we're going to get a lot of Atlanta in our future. And look, those first 2 seasons are going to be thought of in the way that we think of shows like The Sopranos, Breaking Bad, Twin Peaks, The Wire, or whatever. Maybe they're very different shows, but they are barrier breakers. They are creative achievers that push the boundaries of what we thought is possible in television. So most people say that kind of thing. I'd roll my eyes at it, but
it's the real deal.
You got to give it to him and get excited.
He'll have a lot of stuff that he'll be working on. But yeah, super excited.
Aventador asks, what do you think is the most overrated David Fincher film? He says his is Zodiac.
Okay. What about you?
It's tough, right? Like, it's who's the most overrated child you have?
Honestly, yeah.
Yeah. Because like I want to say a movie like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, but I don't know if that's like super highly rated, right?
Well, yeah. There's also that discussion always about like what's overrated. Do you actually mean it's rated over what it should be, or do you really mean it's under, like not as seen?
Yeah. That's tough, man. That is a really, really tough call. Maybe you go Fight Club here just because some people are obsessed with that movie, but that movie is worth obsessing over.
It is. Mine would be Gone Girl, believe it or not. And that was only because I read the book prior to it. And that opinion is subject to change, but I would say for me, probably Gone Girl, because I just like the literature narrative of it over the visual narrative, I guess. Not a bad movie. I don't want to hate on Gone Girl, but I really liked the book, and I thought it did the story a little bit better. But I mean, it's David freaking Fincher. Like, I'm very curious on Mank because so many people are getting screeners to Mank, but they don't want to log it in. They just won't put the ratings, and I was like, why? Put the ratings. Yeah. Let me know what y'all think about this.
All right, I got a quick one here, and then I don't know if we want to wrap it up with a little bit of rapid fire on some of the movies people are throwing at us.
For sure, let's go.
All right, so first thing, Dragon Animations asked if we're more excited for the next Kingsman or James Bond.
James Bond, and I would usually not say that.
Yeah, but like you know who's directing that next James Bond?
That is exactly why I am saying that, because it's yes, exactly.
My guy.
I know.
So yeah, I think James Bond is a little more exciting right now. And then so let's go some rapid fire on a few things that people have been asking us to comment on throughout the chat. I'm thinking of Ending Things. What do you think?
Big fan of it. And that's one that I do want to finish, make a video on it, be it an LME or a Let Us Explain, but I find it to be fantastic.
You and I both watched that movie and immediately decided we got to go read the book. So
bought the book, yeah.
Yeah. Baby Teeth. I know you were a fan of this one from a few months back.
Huge fan of Baby Teeth. I believe it is over on Hulu at the moment. I would say go check it out. A little sad, but I really liked it. I like how it's shot. Really great performances, and I'm looking forward to seeing what else they have in store, both actor and director.
I said that I loved this, but what are your thoughts on Queen's Gambit? Have you had a chance to watch any of it?
Alina was finishing it, so I've only seen it in the background. I cannot comment on all of it, but I was paying attention here and there. That's why I can't fully rate it yet. But, yo, when you said those scenes were sexy, how is chess so sexy? Like, how do you even do that? There is one thing I wanted to mention, bro, because I did pay attention to the first episode. I was like, yo, it's director Marielle Heller. Who I know, I know she's done acting in the past, but over here on LME, we are
for 4 years or something.
Yeah, it's been a bit.
Awesome to see her in a role like that, and so good in a role like that.
Big fans on LME on Marielle Heller. We stand with her, as I have stated in the past. But yes, really big fan of her, and I will be finishing it.
Have you seen Console Wars? I believe that's a popular one on Netflix.
Yes, I actually said a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago when I know it had premiered. I'm actually a really big fan of this. I really like the cutting that they do as a documentary. It's a really cool throwback in time to when all of this was happening, and it gets a little bit into the future as well. But the cool thing about it, it's dope to look back at all of the nostalgia on it. But the business side of it was ruthless, dude. That's what makes the documentary really, it's a really well done one because of that.
Yeah. Did you catch Unhinged, the Russell Crowe movie from I believe it was Russell Crowe?
Yes, sir.
That came out earlier in the pandemic.
I saw Unhinged, and then what is the one with Mel Gibson that also came out this year? Where he is in Florida.
See, that's the one I get it mixed up with.
I'm glad that you get it mixed up with, because I am working on a video on the both of them put together. But yeah, I know Mel Gibson's one took place in Florida during like a storm that was happening, while this one over here is kind of telling you never honk, because you won't know if it's like a really big racist who might want to kill you, I guess. This one is really, really goofy. I know it's going to be streaming soon. Once it's streaming, I'm going to be making one on this, Unhinged, and I found the other one, Force of Nature. Just complete, utter dookie movies that I can't wait to shred apart.
Yes, God, yes. I remember you caught this one back at, what was it, South by Southwest 2019? It
is on Netflix, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yeah.
And it stars from Stranger Things, Natalia Dyer. I thought this was hilarious, man. I think you would like this one. It's got this dude over here who I know was in Veep as well. He kills it as the pastor who's like running the camp, while it takes place in the early 2000s. So anyone who still remembers like AOL, the what is it, sex, age, location, all that stuff.
ASL.
It hits it on the dot. I wasn't that big on talking to strangers online, but Alina was, and she was like, "Oh, I know this to a T," and I think it's a hilarious little comedy that I wish got more traction. I was surprised considering the star power that it's got behind it, and with it being on Netflix. But catch it if you haven't.
Yeah. Peninsula.
I will be making a video on this one as well. Not as
Very
good
cool.
as the original.
All right, we got like 4 more here.
Wrap it.
Short Term 12.
Short Term 12 is absolutely fantastic. I was just seeing a thread earlier today talking about the scenes and where, you know, masculinity is broken down and men can actually vent, and this was the first one that came to mind. And it was in the thread as well. I saw it. Lakeith Stanfield is in this. I think he gives a killer performance. Brie Larson would, after this, get her Oscar, rightfully deserved. Yeah, this was one of the first ones when I first started the channel back in the A to Z days where I was like, I like film. I like independent cinema.
Yeah, and Short Term 12 is forever going to be known as one of the like just absolutely best. I've heard people on the Rewatchables podcast talk about it as like salary cap casts. Like you get them while they're still cheap.
Oh, I mean, like, yeah, these people have been in 10 Cloverfield Lane since then. They're Captain Marvel, like Atlanta, which we just finished talking about.
You mentioned a few people who are major movie stars already, and you didn't bring up
Rami Malek,
John Gallagher Jr., and Caitlin Dever are all in this movie too.
Wait, Caitlin Dever's in this movie?
Stephanie Beatrice, who's on Brooklyn Nine-Nine, also in this movie.
Wow. Okay. Yeah. No, it reminds me a lot of Stanford Prison Experiments, another one where all those boys, you know, years later, their salaries also went up as well. So, fantastic movie if you haven't caught it. It seems like it's on Amazon Prime.
There's a couple HBO shows that I don't believe either of us have caught. We Are Who We Are, the new Luca Guadagnino show, and then The Undoing, which is, I believe, Robert Kelly's new show with Nicole Kidman and Hugh Grant.
I have not seen The Undoing, so I can't speak on that. Saw an episode of We Are Who We Are and talked a little bit about it a couple podcasts ago, but I like it. It's got that looseness that Luca usually does where he's just observing everything that's happening. This kid moves into a military base and like everyone's just talking smack about him in that first episode. And I liked it. But I haven't sat down with it yet to finish all the rest of the episodes yet.
Mise en Scène caught Little Fish at the Philly Film Festival and loved it. Wanted to know if you saw it too.
No, and that's one that kept popping up on film festivals, and I never got the chance to see it, but it's been mentioned a lot. Definitely on my watch list.
And last one here, Kajillionaire, the latest from Miranda July that we saw back at Sundance earlier this year.
One of the most quirkiest ones out of Sundance, I will say, and it's made me want to go back and watch a lot more movies from Miranda July. I personally liked it. I know when we went to go see it, our group was a little split on it, but I was on the side that really liked. I really liked the ending, and I really liked the performances and the quirkiness of it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's quirky to a point of maybe being a little bit cloying and annoying. I personally found it to be really sweet and charming and clever throughout. The perspective it's presenting about nature versus nurture is really interesting, and like you said, it's got a really great ending, the kind of ending that's just like you don't see that all the pieces are leading to this moment, but then the moment arrives and it all feels right. I like Miranda July a lot. I think she's very clever and funny in a way that's not very ha-ha, but very charming.
Same. And look at Tushar over here. He's going to wrap it up with this one right here. Super Chat, which is just an ad for the podcast. Oh, Tushar. Shout out to you. Definitely check out the Intercut podcast. Like I said, a lot of the stuff that we cover over here, before we even cover it over here, we like logging it, not logging it, but mentioning it over on the festival recaps that we have over on Intercut. So definitely go check that out. There's a bunch more movies, but like I said here, we like to log the stuff weekly. So that way, you know, everyone has a chance to watch it. But over on Intercut, we have a bunch of fest stuff for the stuff that's upcoming that we will soon be logging over here on Letterboxd Mondays, which we will be doing every Monday. So Zach, dope having you here. I know we're about to cut over to Intercut and start recording the stuff from Philly Fest. So that's going to be exciting as well.
Yeah, so make sure you check us out, Intercut Pod, on YouTube or whatever your podcatcher is, whether that's iTunes, Spotify. We are there too.
Yes, sir. And shout out to everyone who was in the chat. If you have any other suggestions that you want to hit us up with, you know, let us know over on Letterboxd. Let us know over on Twitter as well. We'll take those suggestions. Always adding stuff to the watch list, expanding the movies to see. Because it's not just about putting movies on your radar, but we love the movies you guys put on our radar as well. So thank you guys for watching. We'll see you over on Intercut, and we'll see you next week here on LME. Take care.